All right, I don't want to keep everyone too much longer. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining this morning. Just a couple of housekeeping things. This webinar will be recorded, and we will be able to send that out to you once we have completed that. And also, you'll all be placed on mute. You could use the Q&A at the bottom of the screen or the chat if you have questions or any comments during the presentation. But at the end, we will be meeting up and having a question and answer for that. Again, I am Brian Knapp. Thank you for joining. I'm the new supply chain advisor for NHMEP. And some of you I have met, you and your team, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. So I would like to say thanks, and I'm new to the center, so I'm excited about that and being able to bring you today's webinar. So a lot of changes in the New Hampshire MEP over the last few months. Nagi has retired. I'm not sure if everyone knew, but after a successful 20 years, he's done a lot for New Hampshire manufacturers, and we're excited with that. And we have a new president, Tony Fernandez. So hopefully you'll be able to have the opportunity to meet him over the next couple of months. We're excited to bring new programs. And you need to reach out and make sure you're seeing what we have to offer. Today, we're talking supply chain. So supply chain is new to the center, and a 2-year federal grant has come to us over the last couple of months. And that is to be able to bring you supply chain help and assistance around challenges and gaps that you have. So I'm here, my new role was established, and I'm here to help your teams. Also, we're putting a much larger focus on scouting for sourcing and helping around being able to open up your sourcing opportunities. So to access and analyze for local manufacturing capabilities and expanding our knowledge of the New Hampshire manufacturing companies. So it's very important that we're looking at the ecosystem and expanding and stimulating the growth of the New Hampshire and US companies, but mainly for our growth in New Hampshire. To do that, to strengthen that and be able to do that type of establishment, we've now going to roll out a tool called the New Hampshire Manufacturing Network. And that is going to be powered by Sustainment. And this network and platform will allow you to showcase your companies, build your profile, which will then be on searchable attributes. So able to see, find all your capabilities and how that is moving down. So very important. The network will connect you with both buyers and sellers, which will be giving you the ability to grow your business. One database to allow us to map, search, and collaborate with all New Hampshire companies, and then also across the US and Puerto Rico. So very important that we are trying to connect up and be able to work. Our plan as we look at where we are and where we're headed with this is to have companies like yours to be able to build profiles and assist with sourcing and supply chain to eliminate challenges and grow your bottom line. At the end of our 2 years, what I see and what I'm trying to accomplish is to be able to build a New Hampshire comprehensive network that'll allow us to be able to search, look, and understand manufacturers' abilities, capabilities, who we have for what type of situation. And that will help us build a supply chain resilient network, and will allow us to be able to use and continue for years to come. And I see it as a large very important opportunity for all of our companies to be able to understand what each other can do, how they can do it, and just break down all those barriers where I'm seeing and seeing through my years of supply chain, ability to find and understand sources and understand who can help a company grow. So I'm trying to bring all of that in and understand that through the network that you're going to see. So I'm excited. Again, thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Sustainment, who is going to walk through a demo for us. And as I mentioned, we'll be able to have questions and answers, and I am available to assist any way we can as we go on and as I meet and understand and talk to you. So thanks again. I'm handing it over to Trevor. Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you very much, Brian. And thank you everybody for attending today and welcoming me here. So I will start the presentation. I'm going to cover a few slides first and then jump into a live demo. But before I jump into the slides, give you a little bit of my background. I do have a manufacturing background. Came from a last company I was at, had about 220 employees. We did both custom and volume machining, precision machining that is, and had about 100,000 square foot location in Northwest Ohio. And one of the things we did do, as most manufacturing companies do, we outsourced for capabilities and for capacities. So this was a problem that we had in our company as far as finding and working with good outsource partners, and also on top of that, being a good outsource partner. The platform here at Sustainment is exactly why I shifted and came to work here in the software side. That is because we now have a great platform here to solve a lot of those problems with connections and secure file sharing and communication. So, and happy to be partnering with so many states out there in helping to grow their connectivity in manufacturing communication as well. So to touch on the platform a little bit here before I jump into the live demo is we've got a nationwide network marketplace. And what it is if you were to look at our platform, which we'll see, we have a little over 10,000 manufacturers loaded onto our platform for buyers to be able to find and connect with, and for manufacturers to be able to connect with each other. It's really what we saw as the problem is that there was no up-to-date easy way for manufacturers to connect through new technologies with the database. So we built that software to try to derive value and solve problems and promote engagement, which is important when you've got a fractured ecosystem like our manufacturing ecosystem in the US. Our focus was on the buyers, and for that we are providing free access to manufacturers to upload and keep their data or their information, their company card, so to speak, up to date. We've created partnerships with the MEPs throughout the country to help grow and develop those relationships with manufacturers as well. And with that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the history and why we became a company. So we started off with the need at a Tinker Air Force Base with the B-52 bomber. They were having trouble finding manufacturers to do certain processes that wanted to bid on the work. And really what they were looking for was small to medium-sized manufacturers out there in the US to help keep these planes maintained and in the air. And upon that, what kind of was discovered and uncovered is, 98% of the companies out there believe they should avoid future supply chain disruptions, which is exactly what the government was seeing pre-COVID. COVID came along and really showed how that problem was greater than that, because no one had good information, reliable information to see who could make parts that went into respirators to be made to go into hospitals. So we went and shifted from being a platform that was designed to help the Department of Defense to being a platform that was designed to help the entire US manufacturing industry. And with that, we also switched to being a public benefits company, with our mission being around small to medium-sized manufacturers and helping them grow and develop their companies. One of the focuses, and I'll touch on this several times because of the fact it's so important, one of our focuses is secure data sharing, because with the government being a very large customer, we need to make sure we and all of our customers and all those on our platform are meeting those requirements set by the DoD for FedRAMP and making sure to meet all those ITAR requirements with our secure platform. So one of the things you'll find in the platform here as a buyer is the ability to find hidden suppliers. You know, there's manufacturing companies all over the US and in New Hampshire especially that possibly don't have big signage out on their in their front lawn or don't advertise what they do. Our platform helps you go to one place and uncover who those manufacturers are so you can get those processes done that you need. And you can look for them by proximity. So finding closer suppliers for backup resources is obviously less expensive than going cross country because you were able to find the one person you thought could do it when there might be dozens right, you know, in your state or just neighboring states. And then once again, the secure sensitive data. Our platform, we've partnered with Box to make it so that our file sharing platform is so secure, we can't even see the files that customers are sharing with each other. We know that file sharing is happening, but we don't even have access to see the data that's shared. So with that, I am going to jump into a live demo here. So I'm going to start off with the My Suppliers tab. So this would really be where a buyer or anybody wanting to connect with reconnected to manufacturers would kind of start their journey in the platform. So what we're seeing here is a My Connections. These are all of the manufacturers that I'm connected to. So I'm on a demo version here, but it is also the live version of the software. So there will be things I won't do because I don't want to send messages to actual manufacturers here. So there might be a few things I talk about in theory that the platform will do. It really does it. I just don't want to get someone excited on the other end that they've got work coming in when it's just me doing a demo. So as you can see, I'm connected to lots of suppliers. This is a great way to just have that list of suppliers in one spot that I'm connected to. And it really is a first in, first at the top sort of filtering here. So this is the company I've been connected to the longest. And if I went down to the bottom, this would be an easy way to find my most recent connection right here, which was just yesterday with Source Horizon in North Carolina. What makes it nice is you can actually come in and organize these connections by creating lists. You have the ability to make and name the lists however you want. So some of the things you can do is have a list of companies that you're researching. So these would be companies I've just put in here that, you know, maybe I need some more ITAR AS9100 partners. And I would just put those companies into that list. And it really is as simple as, I'm back here on My Connections, I could say, you know, here's a company that I think would be a good fit for us potentially. So I'm going to add them to the research list. So whoever's job it is, whether it's quality, whether it's procurement, you know, no matter whose job it is, they know, okay, there's a company in here that I need to take a look at and see if they're a good fit. So from here, we could click on their company card, which will bring up information about them. So and I might add all this information that's put in here that you can see for the description, their processes, company info. Since I'm connected to them, I see the email address and phone number. If I wasn't connected to them, I would just see an address and have a link to their website, but I'd have the ability to invite to connect to them. Certifications, you see these certifications are red. That's for my demo purposes here, showing that their certifications are expired. I do that so you guys can see what it looks like. If they weren't expired, which we'll see later in some company profiles, they would just be normal black and white. Equipment capabilities. So companies have the ability to load their capability statement, equipment capability, photographs, any information they want to load and put in there about themselves. And you can click on it, download it, open it up, look at it in another tab. For this, their equipment capability for this customer is actually a list of their equipment. So I open this up, so you'll actually see their equipment list they have in-house. And if we were to go back, their capability statement would open just that. It would see their capability statement. If you're a supplier or a manufacturer in this call, I highly recommend you add those two things, because lots of companies, that's one of the first things they go to look at is, you know, what can you do? What capabilities do you have, along with what certifications you have? So those are two very valuable resources to have in there and keep up to date. I also think it's nice if you add some photos of work you've done. So this company doesn't have that loaded up. However, it is very easy to load. So Someone could then take and move this company through to say, you know what, okay, they look like they're a good fit for us. I'm going to contact them, so I'm just kind of moving them through the pipeline here. I'm going to contact them about being a supplier, get them an NDA, and so on. So now they've moved from the research list to the contact list. Once again, you can name these however you want, make your own list. These are just kind of what I've made for demo purposes, because at the last company I was at, that was kind of how the process went. Someone in procurement said, hey, we need these types of processes, or even someone in estimating, we need these types of processes. They would help identify some of those companies, and then it would move over to our director of quality, who would then take a look at the companies and make sure that they checked all the boxes to fit our need. So say that's been done, you've gone through, they've looked at it, they may had an initial conversation and say, you know what, I'm going to request an NDA, which I can't hit on this customer because we already have an NDA in place with them for this purpose here. But you would just simply, through the platform, request an NDA, and you can send them that NDA, they can sign it electronically, and it'll just come right back through the platform. And on another customer, I'll actually show you what that looks like. From here, so say we've got the NDA in place, so now we can send them prints and move on and see if they are a good fit. I would just move them to the NDA list. I'll save you the watching me move it from one list to another, but it would move them to the next list and say, okay, we've got an NDA in place with them. Now we can talk openly. Everything looks good. You know what? Boom. We've approved them for being a milling and for working on this project and doing Swiss machining. So you can add them to as many lists as you want once you've approved them as a supplier, or you can add them to a list even if they aren't approved suppliers, which is nice because you can just take your existing database of suppliers and just put them right in the list they belong to. What's really nice about this is it takes away some of that, one person knows every bit of information inside of a facility. If you have 2 or 3 people who are doing procurement, this is a way to build out those lists of best known suppliers based on procedure and come in and say, okay, you know what, if we have a forging job come in, this is who we use for forging. And boom, and you can have notes and everything around that as to why and who contacts are. And I'll jump into this demo project here because half these companies are fake, so I can actually do some things and not have it affect people on the other end. So this Sven Swiss Machining here in West Virginia, I have an NDA in place with them, which they've signed electronically. And same with Trevor's Milling Machine Shop, also in West Virginia. If I click on the little icon here, it will open up and you'll see the signed digital copy of that NDA. Once you load as a buyer, once you load the NDA in on your side and populate it that first time, when you've got it all loaded up, when you send it off, the template is there. So really all that would have to be added at the time, which I can send a video out for those interested to show you how it all works. It takes just a couple minutes to do. You just drag and drop the date in, you drag and drop the name in, and then you, just like a normal DocuSign or anything, you just drag and drop the spot you want to drop your signature in, and boom, it's all there. So it's a very quick process, and it really solves for the problem of companies having NDAs that some are in file cabinets, some are saved in the CRM, some are saved in a file in the CFO's server. This can make it so all of your NDA management is handled in one place. And in a near future release, you can actually also add expiration dates to NDAs. So we'll see that in the next 4 weeks or so. So if an NDA, if you want to put a timeline on NDAs, like every 3 years, you like to get a new and updated NDA. When you do the signature, you can also assign an expiration date, and then it will do just like certifications do. It'll turn pink when they're expired. Speaking of that, with the pink certifications, if I'm on the certifications here and I say, okay, well, they've got a certification that's outdated, and I see that their AS91 certification, 9100 certification is up to date. However, their ISO is expired, which obviously a fake customer, because those two would usually be hand in hand with expiration dates. But I could simply quick request update, and now it's letting my supplier know, hey, you need to upload new information. As a manufacturer, that's great, because once you upload it for this one buyer, it's uploaded or it's updated for everyone now, because you just went into your profile, you updated it, and now that information is accurate and up to date. Same thing with ITAR, it's showing to be outdated, so you could just click, request update, they're getting an email and an alert on the platform letting them know that, hey, you're outdated here and we need this resolved before you bid on any more of our work. So from here also, once we've built our lists and have our proper manufacturers, our suppliers in that list, you can go into any one of these lists and say you have a list that's set up for a certain type of project. You know, these are the companies that always do this type of work for us, or these are the companies that are approved. You know, say your customer is Boeing and you can only use approved Boeing suppliers. You could create a list of approved suppliers for Boeing right in here. And then from there, you could even say, you know what, I'm going to have Boeing for this part number, Boeing for that part number, you know, and so on. You could go through here and say, okay, you know what, I've got this item. I need to create a project because I need a quote. I'm going to come through. I'm going to click on a couple of these, my two fake companies here, and I am going to create a new project. And now that I've got that project created, and I'm going to drag and drop some stuff from another screen. So excuse me if I'm looking from screen to screen rather than you guys having to watch me type though. I would just be putting in my regular RFQ type of information here that you would put on any RFQ, just populating that information. You have the ability to make this a community project, which I'll show you in a little bit, but that would be so anyone could see it that's on the Sustainment platform, or you can have it be a project that only those who you invited can see. People you're invited, you're fine to share, you know, post NDA type of information. If you're going to make it a community project, I wouldn't put anything in the project description that you wouldn't want someone seeing that you don't have an NDA in place with. So with that being said, here I only have information that is related to what it takes to do the work. You know, as far as you know, quality requirements, is a PPAP required? This only has 21 units, so not needing a PPAP on something like that. Material, any exceptions, you know, any deviations must be marked and returned on the prints in red with the quote. What's nice is the customer you're sending these prints to, they can mark those prints up, re-upload them, and send them right back to you if they need some sort of deviation. The platform will handle that. And, you know, simple things like 3D models and prints are available. From here, I would come in and I'm going to put those items in. So I may say, I'm going to drag and drop that one. Drag and drop that one, and it is just as simple as dragging and dropping, or you can browse and click to add your files that you want to. So it's even telling me that I've added a duplicate file here. So I go, oops, you know what? I don't want that one. So click that. Now I would hit create project, and what it's going to do is it's inviting those two companies to bid on this project, and they're going to see all of this information here. So once that project is created, I'll jump up into the projects. And we'll see this RFQ and a demo. So from here, if I wanted to modify this project, add more documents, I can. Communicate with the team, I can. If I wanted to make this a community project, I could do that. So what I would do is I would just edit it. I would mark it as a community project. I don't want to do that because I don't want all the customers, all the manufacturers on Sustainment to see my fake project here. And then I would assign a quote due date to it. Quote due date's doing two things. One, it's telling manufacturers when you need a quote back by. And secondly, it's also going to remove it from the platform as soon as, at least remove it from the community opportunities as soon as it expires. So gives them a little bit of a deadline, and it manages the project for you a little bit as well. I'm going to discard those changes. Anybody who sees this in the community, they won't have access to see the prints and models until you've approved them as a supplier. So what they would do if you had made this a community opportunity is they would request to join the project. They request to join the project. You as a buyer review them and say, yep, they're a good fit. I'm going to send them an NDA. You send them an NDA. Then once they sign that, you approve them to join the project and they can see the prints and the other information. From here, you'll see your team. These are the people you've sent invitations to. This is where you would see anybody who had requested to join the project. And as the ones you sent invitations to accepted the project, you'd see them pop up into the active team. say I didn't find everything I was looking for, not enough community. Maybe I didn't want to post it to the community, and I invited some suppliers, and Sven's and Trevor's both tell me, you know what, we can't turn this job around fast enough to meet your deadline, or they're having some sort of other issue. I can jump right out into the supplier map, which once again has approximately 10,000 plus manufacturers loaded onto it. And I can source. What I did is I filtered it down here to New Hampshire. So I can look for companies to do what I need to do in the area. And it just does it on a radius. I could look at the whole country. I could go to specific areas if I wanted to. Say I'm thinking, you know what? This is a large forging project. I can't remember who does forging that was in Pennsylvania, but I know there's a company that does that. I'm going to start searching that area. You can use the tool like that because you can do it by location. You can then go along and say, you know what? I want to do it by process, even drilling down into sub-process if I wanted to. And if I needed industry experience, I could then drill down and go to industry experience. Say I'm looking for aerospace and defense. I could continue to just filter down and look for manufacturers to hit those needs. So, all right. I'm not going to select any of these companies, but I could come in and say, you know, I want to read more about them. Are they a good fit? And so on, and just look through and see if these companies would be good. And then from there, I would just hit select vendor, confirm selection. They would get an email inviting them to the project. I'm going to X out of here so I don't actually invite anybody. Once they're in the project, it's really nice. You can message related to the project. So you could send a message, they could send you a message. You know, once they accept the project, it might be one of those things. If they're a supplier you've never worked with as a buyer, you might be reaching out and saying, hey, thanks for joining the project. My name's Bob. I'm going to be the one managing this project. Please let me know if you have any questions. You know, something along those lines. And then they can actually ask questions. And once again, I think it's next week in our product release update, they'd be able to share files back and forth right through this chat feature as well. So if you asked them for some information to share, they could send it right to the platform. This is really nice because say I'm managing this project and before it closes, I'm going to go on vacation as the buyer. Anyone who has access to the platform can jump in and say, okay, what was Trevor working on in this project? Where are we at? Or Sven's had a question. I need to get in there and answer that question because Trevor won't be back for a week. And rather than digging through emails, that subject lines may have been changed or whatever, now all that communication is kept in one spot and buyers have the ability to cross-train and take care of each other's projects for them while they're out. Documentation. So I've mentioned a couple of times the security around our platform. So the platform is a FedRAMP secure environment, and we also have the ability to share large files up to 150 gigabytes. So you can share your large 3D models through the platform. You can give your suppliers the ability, or your suppliers the ability to download those models or just view them. So many companies out there now quoting off of 3D models. Obviously, you'd probably want to give them the ability to download them. One thing I will say, I'm on a slower internet server today, so this is going to take a minute to upload since it was the first time it was uploaded. But what you'll see is an image pop up of the 3D model. And then there we go. And once it's open that first time, it usually opens quite a bit quicker. So you add your wireframes to it, view the model, the ability to download it right there so they can use it for quoting if they need to, or if their manufacturing engineer needs to look at it to make sure it is something that they can hit the tolerances on. Everything is right there. And then obviously they'd have the ability to go back and look at the tech, the specs, the prints, any other information. Jumping over to the settings, this is where you'd give your companies, your suppliers, the ability to download those files. Also, what's really nice here is a toggle that you wouldn't use often, but when you do want to turn it on, it's extremely valuable. So allow project team members to see each other. The value in the allowing project team members to see each other comes from a very real world experience I've dealt with in the past. And that is my last company, we did a lot of machining after a different company did the forgings. So Company A did the forgings, sent them to us to do the machining. From there, we sent them off to another company that took care of heat treating and plating. We would oftentimes have pallets of parts show up where we were made aware that they were showing up by PO that was on the box that the parts actually showed up in. There was no heads up these were coming in. We didn't know, is it really 4,000? Is it 5,000? Is it 7,000? We would just have these things show up and have a PO, but no indication of whether it was spread out over 4 cartons, 2 cartons, whatever. So we would tool up, do the machining that needed to be done to these items, detool the machine, ship these items off, only to have a whole nother pallet show up of said parts. We could have left the tooling set up on the mill that was running these items and not had to charge our customer, or worse yet, even eat the charges of a whole nother setup. Simply, the forging house could have said, hey, we're sending you 5,000 of these spread out over 4 skids, and they left on 2 trucks. Our second shift could have said, oh, cool, this stuff's showing up tomorrow for day shift. Let's tool up the machine. It'll be ready to go. We're ahead of schedule. They show up. We can immediately start machining them, sometimes cutting days out of lead times. And not to mention, if we knew that 5,000 of those were coming over the course of 2 shipments, we wouldn't have detooled the machine in between pallets. So could have been far more efficient. And then meanwhile, we could have jumped in there and said, hey, finish these up. 1,000 are making it out today. There'll be another 1,000 making it out tomorrow, and so on, whatever those ship rates were, headed out to the heat treater and the plater. Then everybody's in the loop as to what's going on. The forging house, the machine house, the plater, and the buyer. Everybody has some sort of indication, because you could even communicate the messaging and add tracking numbers if you wanted to as well. So it's a nice example of when project team members would want to see each other. It's not the everyday thing, but it's one of those things that can be forgotten about, and it has a lot of value when you're dealing with multi-operations through different facilities that aren't in competition with each other. So from here, I'm going to actually jump up into the messaging, because this is a very powerful part of the platform right here. So we have our messages here, and you can see there's 1 project, 2 projects. We click on this, we have a main chat where we can chat with this company. And then we can also go look at any conversations that have been around a project. What's really nice is that's cataloged and stored. So if you want to go back and read through the conversation in the future of a conversation that happened, where maybe a question was asked and a part didn't show up as expected, and the supplier is saying, well, I asked that and you answered, and boom, all of that information is tracked and documented right here. You can read through the conversation related to a project or conversations that are part of just main chat. And you can see here where there's multiple projects going on, multiple conversations. So great way to communicate with your suppliers and outsource partners. Other nice thing about this is, once again, going back to an employee being out sick or out on vacation, now anybody can jump in here and see what the communications are. I'm going to jump back to the My Suppliers here for a second, now that we've ran through a project. I'm going to go right back actually to one of those existing suppliers. You also have the ability to keep notes around a supplier. So what's nice about this is you could keep your vendor scorecards here. On-time delivery is 100%, pricing index 97%, and then there's an asterisk. They pass on the increase or decrease in cost of materials without notice. It's part of the contract. So information that you want to have about any supplier, outsource partner, you can keep that right here. You could also have, if there's multiple contacts for different processes, you could have that sort of information here. You can also have private notes in there. So, and this actually, I'm regretting pulling this one up now, but since you've seen it, one of our customers went to a rival high school for me. So when I was doing the demo for him, I made a joke, because he constantly bragged about winning state when he was in high school. So I just told him that was the last time his school ever won. So you can have private notes. Only the author sees those notes. So jumping from there, from the supplier management part of it, I'm going to touch a little bit on the opportunities side. So we have two different types of opportunities here in sustainment. So this would be more for your sales department or for those that are looking to grow the business. So if you're a manufacturer on the platform, this is a tab you want to look at on a regular basis and come in and say, is this a project I can work on? Do I want to request to join? So these are those community projects. If you see the company name is Sustainment, we don't have anything manufactured for us. What that is it's one of two things. It's either a NIST project or an MEP project where they're asking us to help them find a supplier for something, or it could be a company that wants to remain confidential until they've actually made a partnership with said suppliers. That way they aren't having manufacturers who just want to do work for them in general, asking to do work that can't really work on that project. Very, very small percentage, but it does have the ability or the chance that it will happen. So just keep that in mind. If you see company name Sustainment, it's not being made for us, it's us managing a project for someone else. You would simply click on that project. This is going to show me as if I'm the buyer because it is a Sustainment project and I'm logged in as if I'm Sustainment. You guys would see just this detail page of information. And then down here on the right-hand corner, there would be a request to join project. You'd click that, it would send a message to the buyer, which then would go through the steps of making you approved supplier if they think you're a good fit. Back to list here, we also have the DIBS list, which was loaded by just manufacturing types of processes. So you're not going to jump on here and see the DIBS list for like if the government needs desks shipped to some country or pencils made, any of that information. This is just going to be manufactured type of items, and it's going to link you and take you out to the DIBS website, which you would then log into for that project. Highly recommend for any buyers out here to definitely jump on and post any community opportunities if you're looking for suppliers. I can tell you that when we first launched this, which was only a few months ago, it's one of the success stories I'll touch on, but I'll speak to it now as well. We had a company in Kansas who Milner Manufacturing, they had a prototype part they were looking to have made. They had spent over 6 weeks reaching out to manufacturers to help with that prototype. No return phone calls. Certain companies wanted to fill out a credit app because they were a smaller manufacturer. Just lots of runaround and trying to get these prototypes made, and lots of companies that were too busy to help them. Milner jumped on our platform on a Wednesday night after hours, posted the opportunity. On Friday, they had NDAs in place, and as early as Monday, they started to receive quotes. By the following Friday, when it expired, I believe they had 6 quotes in hand and had communicated, if memory serves me right, it was with 15 different manufacturers. They chose a manufacturer, they had their prototypes made, and now they're in the process of doing some design tweaks based on those prototypes. But it was, for him, it could have put him 6 weeks ahead of the curve in looking for a new manufacturer if he had started and known about Sustainment, if he had started the process there instead of doing the procedure that so many people do out there, which is Google search, look at websites, make phone calls, have discussions. This gave him a captive audience of people who wanted to do the work instead of him having to look for people to try to ask them to do the work. So jump out of here. Just going to touch on a few of the other tabs on here, just so you're aware. This is the dashboard, which would show you the most recent companies you'd look at. You'd also see manufacturing resources. You guys would be logged in as if you're in New Hampshire, so you're going to see New Hampshire manufacturing resources. I'm logged in as if I'm in Colorado, so I'm seeing Colorado ones. Projects would be just that, projects that you're doing, or other projects, which are projects you've been invited to. Opportunities we just talked about. My suppliers we covered. Find suppliers. This is where you would go out to the map if you just wanted to look for suppliers to connect with. So you can do that through a project, or if you want to do it in advance of a project, which I highly recommend, if you know you have some gaps, this is where you would do it, is going to the find suppliers. File sharing, actually, this will be moved in the next week, will be moved into the projects portion. So, but really it's just a way to share files without creating a whole project. We've streamlined the project process so fast now that you can share files right through that or share them through chat. So this file sharing chat tab isn't needed anymore. And then the resources, once again, we're seeing the Colorado resources here. You'd see New Hampshire. And then the invite tab. So invite tab is how you invite your existing suppliers to the platform. So if they're not on the platform or if they just have a profile to claim, you would invite them by putting in their name and email address, or you could copy this link and send a personalized email. For us, one of the things we do when we bring on a new buyer onto the platform is we're happy to put together that invite email with them, be in the copied line, the CC line, as they send out to all of their suppliers, hey, this is our new supplier management platform. Please join the platform so that we can communicate with you in a secure environment and share files with you moving forward. Copied on this email is Trevor Bryant. He'll walk you through the process if you have any questions and can do a demo. And there's even a link for my calendar. It's been very successful in taking the burden off of you to get your suppliers to join, and also having your suppliers, any questions they have, they can just ask me directly instead of having to ask you and then you having to turn around and ask. Makes for a nice, smooth onboarding process. That I'm going to jump back over to the presentation. So Milner Manufacturing, this is the success story I touched on. He had great success with his prototypes, getting them turned around really quickly. Another one, Duncan Machine, they were struggling to find outsourced partners who could do the specific processes they needed, along with having the different types of certifications. Lots of different, they needed ITAR and several different NADCAP certifications. Our platform gave them the ability to filter down by ITAR, filter down by NADCAP, and look for the suppliers to meet their needs. They also were spending quite a bit of money on file sharing, which we solved that problem for secure file sharing for them as well. Bunty LLC, this company is in South Carolina. They were looking for a large forging. Turns out that it was big enough. There was only a couple forging houses in the country that could actually make the part, just because of its size. They posted it. It was at a community opportunity that was posted out there. There was nothing really secretive about what they were making because it was so early in the forging process. They actually even just shared the print and dimensions with anybody who wanted it, whether they had an NDA in place or not. They managed to get their quote they needed back, turned around in time. And a company out of Pennsylvania, I believe, bid on that. They got 2 different quotes back and awarded it to a company in Pennsylvania. And it was a project that needed to be sourced in the US. So it was very important to them that they found a outsourced partner in the United States. So as it stands right now, we have a couple of different options for joining the platform. The community, which is completely free, that is for manufacturers to join to represent their company or claim their profile right here on the platform. Totally free. The professional model, that gives you access to creating projects and sharing files, whether they be community projects or just projects with your existing supply base. That is $175 a month per user. If you have more than one user at a facility, we can figure out your pricing at that and see exactly what it's going to look like for you. But I'm happy to do one-on-one demos. I'm happy to do one-on-one demos for community too. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer those questions for you. We find many of our community members, manufacturers, are also ones that need to step up to do a professional version because they do so much outsourcing and they just want a secure way to share those ITAR documents. So, and then enterprise, if you're a large company on here and you got multiple departments, multiple buyers, we'll put together a pricing plan for you. So next step for you is to scan the QR code to join. Once again, it's free to join, and then you can decide what level you want to do from there. One of the things that we'll talk about a little bit that I sadly missed in the presentation is the verified supplier badge, which we'll be discussing here in a moment as well. But if you haven't had a chance to scan this QR code yet, it will be on the last slide we show as well. But with that, I'm going to thank you guys and turn it over to Brian to talk to you guys a little bit about the verified supplier badge.
Excellent. Thank you, Trevor. Excellent overview. So thanks everyone again. So verified badge is a symbol that will be put on your profile. And how we do that is we are setting up a process that will allow you to request a verified badge. And to get that, what we will do is we will have a verification process where I become kind of the analyzer of what you do, how you do it, verifying all of your process. It's kind of like a certification. And once that occurs, we give that back into sustainment, where then you will have a badge put on your profile that when people are searching and looking through, they could see you are a verified you're a verified supplier by the New Hampshire MEP. It just gives you more notice, gives you more opportunity to showcase you, and shows that you are who you are and you do what you do. And it's just a bit of kind of a promotion type situation where you'll be part of the sustainment verified suppliers, and everyone will see that as they start to search and look through that. So it's another very good option.
And the nice thing for that is there's no charge around being a verified supplier. There are other platforms out there that charge an advertising fee for that. This is a free of charge.
Thank you.
So here are the thank you, Brian. Here are the two different QR codes to scan. So scan the QR code here, one, that's to join the platform. And then the second QR code is to get the sheet up to fill out to request to be a verified supplier. So I'll leave those up there for now. We did have a few questions come in that I'll read from another screen here. And first question came in is, can you also add your own approved suppliers to the list? Yes, you definitely can. So that was, and this question might have come in before I showed the invite button. So you have an invite button. They don't have to fill out their entire profile. Really, all they have to do at that point, if they don't want to make a profile to be found, they could just put in their email, create a username, and then they would have access to that and be connected to you since you invited them to the platform. And there are different ways of being on the platform. There's discoverable, which is the manufacturers on the platform that can be found. And then we also have the ability to be undiscoverable, which would be a buyer. So that way buyers don't have manufacturers reaching out to them directly saying, hey, I'd like to work for you. It really puts the buyer a little bit more in control of that relationship, and the manufacturer putting themselves out there to be found for the processes they do. Once connection has happened, then they see each other and have the ability to communicate freely. So concerning project sharing, why not just make a phone call? So that is a way to do it. The nice thing about this is this gives you the ability to be a little more passive in the project sharing, and also you can't share secure documents and 3D models through a phone call. So this is a way to create that project, have all that communication, and then going back to the phone call. If a deviation was approved on a phone call, there's no record of that deviation being approved. Or if a question and answer got asked, and then the person who asked the question and got the answer is sick, no one else knows, or is on vacation, no one else knows that that question and answer happened. So the question, yes, you could do that, but this gives you a nice way to document all of those conversations, share all those files, and keep all that communication in one place, instead of some of it being through email and some of it being through phone calls. I will say there's no replacement for a conversation, though, when it comes to a deviation request. So it's good to have it documented, but sometimes the manufacturing engineer needs to speak to a designer and say, hey, what are you trying to do here? Because the machine won't actually make what you're asking for. This is how we would need to do it. So that's a nice way to be able to address that. but also having that environment to share 3D models securely and have both people viewing that 3D model, having that discussion, that has a lot of power as well. Is there a way to search Sustainment webpage by keyword? If I'm looking for a company that sells woven nylon substrates, is that searchable? So at this time, our search engine is related around the pills that you see, the drop downs that you would actually highlight to look to search. However, in a near future release, our search engine will be a keyword search. We'll allow people to put processes in that they do. Instead of us owning and managing the process titles, you'll be able to type in the processes you do, the type of work you do, and then people will be able to search by those. So yes, that is in a future enhancement. The initial platform was developed to satisfy the needs of the Air Force and the DoD. Those were the things they were looking for, not necessarily keyword search. So as we've rolled out more of a civilian offering, realize that keyword search is what people like to do, what they're used to, and it opens it wide up to what you can search for in the manufacturing world. We are a tooling supplier versus a process. Is there a way to provide more details for tooling we provide? So yes, when you have, and I'm going to jump out of this and go back to the platform, which I might have actually closed my tab. I did. So in the platform, let me see if I can open this up quickly since I know we're running short on time. In the platform, you can select that you are a tooling, that tooling is one of your processes. And with that in your company description, you could type in the different types of things you do, tooling you make. So with that being said, you see, actually, I might be able to go into find suppliers. Tooling. And from here, if I was to search tooling suppliers, what you could do then is in your company profile, you could type in information about what you do. Once again, showing photos. Here's a great example of a company that's done a really good job of populating their profile. And when we get into the search engines of being able to search for specific things, that will help with that as well. So because they'd be able to search for types of toolings and you'd be able to identify those types of toolings. All right, back to my Q&A here. What is the verified supplier qualification criteria? So Brian could answer that a little more in depth, but I would hit the highlight of really what we're looking for is the processes and certifications you claim at a bare minimum is what you have. So, and to give you an example, we have a company on here who only wants to do gun drilling. They do a lot of additional processes, but they only want to advertise themselves for gun drilling. So they have gun drilling on here, but they do a lot more. They only wanted to represent the gun drilling, and that's fine to be verified because that is something they do. So anything else you'd like to add to that, Brian?
I think it's important that we do specify the profile is very important of what you want to have, and just put in what you feel is what you're trying to promote.
Exactly.
All right, we're down to a minute, Trevor. So I just wanted to say, Trevor showed us a lot of information today. I think it's very important that we get our profiles set up. I want to be able to use this as a sourcing tool also as our network, as we're building our New Hampshire network. The profiles are very, very important as we grow, and as you want to use more of the tool to help your business, we can do that, and I'm available, and Sustainment's available to help us, because that was a lot of information in a short period of time, and I understand, and I've been here to know that's a lot to swallow. Start with your profiles and then build that. It's very important that I get the profiles. I'm looking for specific manufacturing attributes already, so the tool will help us grow. And we're at the top of the hour. So I would
Yeah.
like to say thank you. New Hampshire MEP, thanks for your attendance today. And please reach out to me, and we could move and go forward. But again, Trevor, could you put up the
Yes.
codes? Thank you. So yes, the codes are there. They should be in the initial email that Jill sent out from NHMEP. So please join. If there's questions, if there's concerns or issues, please, you could reach out to me and I will get everything answered. I don't want to keep too much longer. Everyone is busy. I understand.